Well, it's yet another Friday night that I'll be spending alone. I guess I'll just lay in bed while eating ice cream so I can cry while watching Infinity War by myself. Wait, I just remembered. I have a date with Lego! The Botanicals theme has always been the source of great Lego gifts for that special someone in your life, but since I'm more single than a slice of Kraft's wrapped cheese, I'll be getting the enjoyment of keeping these for myself. Plus, real flowers wouldn't last a day in my care, and my apartment could use a little more life. We have 2 Lego icon sets lined up to build today. First, the Wildflower Bouquet, set number 10313, with 939 pieces, retailing for $59.99 US, and the Dried Flower Centerpiece, set 10314, containing 812 pieces, selling at $49.99 US. The LEGO group was kind enough to send both of these over for review, though I'll still be giving my honest opinions, so you can decide whether you want to buy them or not. The boxes for these sets have black backgrounds, signifying that they are an adult-focused product, though I'll continually say that I'm not a big fan of the style. They do have their own unique logo, which is a nice touch. On the back of the box for the wildflowers, we get a look at the distinct plant pieces, along with a photo of an expertly crafted arrangement. The Dried Flower Centerpiece, on the other hand, has different display capabilities, as it's shown sitting on a box and hanging on the wall. Buying 3 copies of the set will allow you to combine and transform them into a giant table wreath, which gives me heavy Thanksgiving vibes. Although my dinner table never had assigned seating name tags with fancy ribbons for Joanna? Maybe that's who I'm supposed to build the set with, considering that it can be assembled with up to 2 people. Even Lego is reminding me of how much of a single Pringle I am. First, let's open up the box for the Dried Flower Centerpiece and get to building. There's a total of 7 numbered bags and 2 instruction booklets included, making it great to construct with a friend. Starting with bag 1, we begin by creating a base with a rounded edge, which also contains an orange brick separator. This assembly is adorned with 2 leaves, hinge plates that are angled together, and a hanger piece placed in the back, which was originally introduced in LEGO Dots as specified in the manual. After dumping out bag 2, we begin adding the first layer of leaves and flowery details using a variety of autumnal colors for the stalks that hang off the side on ball joints. This includes smaller pine tree elements produced in olive green for the first time for this set. These branches can be adjusted at different angles and make use of other interesting parts, such as this dark orange pumpkin, which is a brand new color for this piece that's attached to a flexible whip. This replicates what's called the bladder cherry. The texture of the pearl millet stalk is even created with a stack of gears. A large leaf can be folded downward or moved slightly off center to cover other details underneath. On the other side, the stalks of wheat utilize crown elements to provide a furrowed appearance. The instructions point out that the dried daisy heads use a white crown element and rare rock, first used as a gold nugget. Next, we create several types of flowers to stack on top, each with different shapes and sizes. A dark brown minifigure hat serves as the dark red Gerberas disc fleuret, while its petals are made of ore elements that clip into the center. Beside it sits a grouping of unnamed bright yellow flora, which is admittedly a bit monotonous to put together, while the orange cosmos are made up of classic minifigure epaulets originally introduced for Imperial soldiers in the Pirates theme circa 1989. Bag 4 gives us the second half for our foundation that mirrors the very first stage, instead with the white hanger piece placed on the opposite side. Moving on to bag 5, we repeat a similar process to bag 2 and fill in our area with plants branching out from the middle, including the same designs with some slight variation. To finish off this half, we continue copying the same flowers as bag 3, though this adds a perfectly replicated dried rose that's created with an incredibly satisfying technique simply by offsetting 4 fender pieces outlined by these large shoulder pauldrons. It is worth noting that both of the larger flowers do tilt to the side for a more realistic look. The last step combines these 2 builds to create a singular flat surface using a thin section in the middle and Technic parts to connect it all together. Plates are then used to lock in the sides. I actually like this final look much more than I had expected and would say that it's definitely more appealing to look at in person, although parts like the tree elements will easily fall off if you aren't careful. Now we also construct a separate L-shaped bracket that can provide an alternate display, mainly for if you've decided to create the larger wreath. I thought just this set was repetitive. I couldn't imagine putting that thing together by myself. We do do get a large handful of extra pieces, including several whips. Moving on to our second set, the Wildflower Bouquet, I cut open the box and pulled out our numbered bags with a single instruction manual. There's a total of 4 building steps that divide the different flower assemblies. After cracking open our parts for the first stage, along with our bright green Technic axles, which are some of the longest, we begin by constructing 3 different types of plants, including leatherleaf ferns, Welsh poppies, and cow parsley, also known as Queen Anne's lace. We get a total of 3 dark green ferns, which are identical to one another and will serve mostly as filler for the bouquet. The end has the ability to be adjusted using hinge pieces, either upward or downward, while each of the 5 leaves can be bent inward or fanned out, providing some differentiation so that they don't appear as similar when placed together. The stem is linked together using small Technic axles and connectors, while the palm leaf elements are joined to the brown axle hub bars. These are inadvertently quite bendable, and is the same for the cow parsley, which uses a similar method. We get 2 of these stalks that utilize tiny white flowers and stem pieces that can swivel at the base to help add a more natural look. Each of the smaller groupings can be twisted to provide even more differentiation. The yellow Welsh poppies can also be adjusted by folding in the petals. These 4 can be pushed in to appear more freshly cut. They are created using shoulder pad parts that clip into the sides. The stigma is represented by a car hub that sits in the center, while a single axle serves as the stem. In addition to these various flora, there's also a brick separator included. The second stage consists of many of the same crown and leaf pieces to build a few cornflowers and lavender, which are extremely tedious to put together. These purple shrubs are designed with a very simple technique that layers leaves on offset Travis bricks held together by a bar down the middle, creating an angular pattern. A lavender minifigure head is placed at the top, with a smaller flower at its tip. Our cornflowers, on the other hand, have separate styles. The first is made up of white eggshell pieces that are attached to clips, which connect to a hexagonal element. A purple stalk fits in the center, while this flower sits on a brown minifigure head. Below it are some leaves that can be moved around for a more organic feel. Though there is only one in this color, we get 2 more in blue with a slightly different design that show 2 of their 3 buds in bloom, but the general approach is still the same for both types. Next up are the lupins, the third stage of the set. The only difference between the 2 is an additional connector for the one to give it more height. These are expertly crafted with clever parts usage skills, as the petals are represented by pirate hats in magenta and purple that line the cylindrical core. Tooth pieces give it a nice conical top. Finishing off this kit, we have our last 3 additions, including a larkspur and Gerber daisies in both yellow and magenta. The first has a long stem and blue flowers branching out at an upward facing angle from bright green hot dogs, and at the bottom are some foliage pieces serving as leaves. There's a great deal of mobility for these buds, which become smaller as they reach the top, where an assortment of light blue minifigure heads are positioned. Although that yellow Technic piece is still an eyesore. The Gerber daisies are assembled in the same manner as the one from the dried flower centerpiece, though these are obviously built with different colors and are placed on top of a bright green bucket, serving as a flower receptacle, joining it to the stem. And of course, there are a number of extra parts. Alright, let's try to fit these flowers in this vase. I'm obviously not a florist and have 0 experience with flower arrangements, so this should be fun. Let's just start. Let's put this one in first. Yeah, that's nice. This is one of the taller ones. Then we'll add these 2. Boom to boom. Do we want to go shorter? Let's try to add this beautiful sunflower, or what looks to be a sunflower. Gerber daisies. The petals on these often get really messed up as you move it around. Okay. Is this arrangement going to be visible from all sides or just one side? Good question, Matt. Good question. Let's just find out as we go. We'll put these 2 in. See, this is what I mean. These petals will not stay in their position and have to constantly be fixed. Now I have to fix this one. See, I'm noticing that this vase is a little tall for the height of these flowers, and I'm wondering if I should get a shorter one. This is also a more narrow vase, and I'm wondering already if we should have went wider. Let's keep adding some more flowers in and see what happens. Because at this point, that's all we can really do. Not looking too bad, although these flowers keep encroaching on our beautiful sunflower. Are you kidding me? Here's where the madness starts. The thing about real flowers is that they don't fall apart on you. But Lego flowers are a bit heavier. Come on. What in the world? No! Instead of actually trying to make these look half decent, we're just going to run into the problem of needing to rebuild them constantly. No! This doesn't look bad so far, but the problem is that we still have more flowers to add. I thought the Lego Marvel mechs had stability issues. These are too close to one another. You want to separate them enough so that they don't become just one flower. Max Evolution, Botanical. See, I want these to be a little lower. I'm sensing a common theme here. Pull this one.
2 hours later.
We're finally done. And I think they look perfect. It only took about an hour and a half. Maybe more. That was a lot more difficult than I expected it to be. It turns out that the best idea was to fit in the ferns and the flowers that sit along the bottom, which then creates a more compact area to fit in the rest of the stems. The biggest challenge was to get them all spread out enough, that way you could appreciate each individual flower without them sitting on top of one another. I really like the look of this, but it took way too much work. There are definitely some pros and cons to both of these sets that you may want to consider. After completing each, I'm certainly impressed by the beautiful arrangements that LEGO can achieve. There's somewhat of a blurred line between seeing them as LEGO and organic flowers, which is especially true for the Wildflower Bouquet, depending on how you display them. As for the builds, I understand why they're recommended for adults. What makes them difficult is the repetition involved, which gets monotonous for certain sections. For instance, the two halves of the dried flower centerpiece are very similar assemblies, which isn't as fun to construct as a solo builder compared to if you had a more shared experience with friends. This is the case for both sets whenever you build the same flower multiple times or are required to use the same technique over and over. Speaking of techniques, I really do love the designs that are achieved using unique part usage skills, and it's really cool that the instructions actually inform you about these pieces as you build. Unfortunately, I was very frustrated to find that the quality of paper for these manuals is extremely low. Maybe it's just my inner graphic designer, but even straight out of the box, the covers were all smeared and the one had even been ripped. As I used them, they were easily creased and the edges got torn up. I've noticed this problem with other sets, but it's getting worse, and I wish that for the 18+ models, they would at least use a higher quality paper. Maybe I'm getting too into the weeds here, pun intended, but it's something that I'd really like LEGO to fix. This is definitely more of a springtime decoration, while the dried flower centerpiece is more fitting for the fall, though depending on your style, there is the potential for both to be enjoyed year-round because they're LEGO. You don't have to water these, so they'll definitely last longer, and there's no maintenance, aside from the occasional dusting. A quick reminder is to keep them out of direct sunlight because over time, some of the parts will begin to yellow. Out of the two, the wildflowers are no doubt my preference because they have a more natural look. Some people complain that the greens are too bright, but from my perspective, I like that it has a higher vibrancy. I have seen that they do pair well with the original flower bouquet and can even be mixed and matched. The dried flowers, on the other hand, kind of remind me of a candle holder from my grandma's dining table, which there's nothing wrong with, it's just not my personal aesthetic. I could see them hanging in a kitchen area and do like that they're more compact and have different display qualities in comparison to the ones that just fit in a vase. You don't have to worry about finding the right container or spending the time to make them look appealing unless that's something you enjoy. But for $60 and $50 US, with the amount of LEGO you get and the overall build experience, I do think that they're reasonably priced, especially in comparison to the other 18+ display sets in the market, like the Star Wars and Marvel helmets, which can retail up to around $70 because of the licensing fees. There are some really cool pieces here, but I wouldn't buy these sets with the intention of parting them out and building something different because there are a high number of the same elements and they're very specific to these botanical kits. I feel like I've really been branching out with the last few sets I've built as they've differed from what I would normally buy between these, the A-frame cabin, and the Avatar Elu Discovery, but I'm loving it. If you're interested in my thoughts for those sets and more, be sure to watch those reviews up next.